Hi, welcome to my podcast, Today's TLC. I'm Stephanie Hibbert, and I am so glad that you are here. I have a really important question for you today. Take a minute and think about the answer. Really think about it. How are you? Not, I see you in the grocery store and I wave to you as I'm passing by and say, hey, how are you? Not that kind of how are you. The kind of how are you ask to your best friend because you care about them, because you love them, because you want them to know that you are a part of their team, rooting for them, there for them if they need you. Really ask yourself, how are you? Like you're your own best friend. I want you to also think, when's the last time you asked yourself that question? Many of us didn't even know that question existed. We didn't even know this was an option, that we have a relationship with ourselves. Today, I want to talk about that relationship. Do you have a relationship with yourself? What does that relationship look like? Do you want to be friends with you? Do you want to be friends with the person you are when you treat yourself the way you do? Let's dig in today and do some exploring on your relationship with you. One of my favorite tools to do this is called the 4 stages of self-love. That's what we're going to talk about today. Then, as always, I'll give you a TLC takeaway that you can apply today to change your perspective of your world. Before we jump into the 4 stages, I want to make sure when I say self-love, you really think self-love. This is not self-righteousness. This is not narcissism. This is not pride where I think that I'm better than someone else. This is looking at myself with loving, compassionate acceptance. That's self-love. All right, let's jump into the 4 stages of self-love. Stage 1, neglect or ignore. When I asked you how you are today, how did that feel? Was it foreign to you? Was it something that you do regularly? Or was it completely a new experience for you to actually think about your relationship with yourself? Just last week, a client of mine said these words to me. I never even considered that I have a relationship with myself. True story. My heart sank because of all of the opportunities that this middle-aged person had missed in their life, not knowing that they had a relationship with themselves that needed care. My heart also exploded with excitement because I could tell that they were shifting away from the first stage of self-love, neglect and ignore. If you're in this stage, then you have no idea that you have a relationship with yourself and you live your life completely on autopilot, disconnected from who you are and who you're becoming. This often shows up in people who are in addiction, those who do everything possible to avoid emotion, workaholics whose only identity comes outside themselves, not inside themselves. These are people who are human doings, not human beings. When you're in stage 1 and you neglect and ignore your relationship with yourself, there's no space for love. You can't love something you don't pay attention to. Now, I've been in that place. I've had moments where I have had no self-love and I neglected and ignored my relationship with myself. Luckily, there are things that help us change our point of view and invite us to stage 2, stagnant awareness. Let's unpackage both of those words, starting with awareness. If you have an awareness, it means you have knowledge or perception of something. If I have an awareness of myself, it means I know who I am, and I know that I need to pay attention to me. However, in stage 2, that awareness of myself isn't progressive, it's stagnant. If I'm in stagnant awareness, I say things like, oh, I'm just a procrastinator, or that's just the way that I am. I've started to explore and pay attention to my humanity, who I am, but I don't think I can change that. That's just my genetics. I'm just fat. I'm just stupid. I'm just like my mom. I'm only good at math. I'm terrible with people. I'm the responsible one. I'm the heavy in the relationship. I'm controlling. I'm just busy all the time. Stagnant awareness means I put all of these labels on myself of who I am, and I don't really think I can change. When you have that type of relationship with yourself, it's hard to love yourself without judging yourself. When people have that negative relationship with themselves, that stagnant awareness inevitably brings judgment and grows until they usually hit a rock bottom. This is where people often go to therapy. They take their baggage of the way that they think that they are, or their past that created where they're at, and they go talk to somebody about it to try and understand. That helps them shift to stage 3 of self-love, conditional change. This phase is where you believe that you can change, that you're moldable, that you can move forward. When you used to say that you're a perfectionist, now you can say, I'm overcoming perfectionism. I'm moving to a different way of being. Instead of saying, I am a good mom or a bad mom, you start saying things to yourself like, I can be whatever mom I choose to be. I can work on being the spouse that I want to be. I have the capacity to learn and change and move forward. This is such a beautiful place, and so many resources help us to get to this space where we can expand what we are capable of becoming. This often comes with an increase in self-love because you no longer feel stuck in a relationship with yourself that feels like you've been partnered with someone you don't really want to spend time with. You realize you have influence on who you're becoming, and it's so freeing and such an amazing feeling. But there's one little piece of this stage that often hides in the background, pretending like it's not important, but it is so important. The word conditional change, the title of this stage, implies that your self-love is conditional on your ability to change. Sure, I can love myself if I set a goal, I change my behavior, and I feel awesome in the end. Of course it's easy to love myself in that space. I say I'm not going to eat sugar for a week. I make the goal, I keep it, boom, lovable. But what about the times when I don't change, when I don't follow through, when I fail? Like when it's Christmas time and you go to a party and you say, I'm only going to have one cookie. And you get there and you see that cookie, you eat it, you stop. Boom, you're awesome. You love yourself. But what about the times where you don't stop at that cookie? What about the times where you set a goal and you fail? You say you're not going to yell at your kids and you yell at them. You commit to finishing that project that's been following you around and you sit and watch a movie instead. How do you feel about yourself after you fail? In the third stage, it's conditional change, which means that your self-love is conditional. That means that your self-love is only as stable as your ability to change. And guess what? You're a human, and you are going to fail sometimes. Lots of times, actually, if you're anything like me. So then what's the next option? That's where stage 4 comes in. Unconditional love. Unconditional love means that no matter the conditions in your life, you love you. The end. You eat that cookie, you eat 10 of those cookies, you veg when you think you should be productive, you still love you. You realize that you've been unkind to the people that you love. You still choose to love you. Stage 4 means you have your own back no matter the situation. That you know that you're learning and growing and failing, and that failure is just part of the human experience. It's just feedback. So many people think that when they fail, if they beat themselves up, it will help them remember better next time. But I want you to remember this. You cannot hate yourself to success. Your actions are dependent on your feelings. If you feel hatred or you feel self-loathing, then you won't want to be around you. You won't feel motivated to move forward. You won't look forward to the next opportunity. You'll want to hide and avoid your own brain. And that's not a place of progress or of joy or of love or of light. That's a crappy place to be. And that's the transition into self-coaching. Self-coaching helps cultivate that self-love, no matter what. When you give yourself permission to fail with love, then you're not afraid of losing your value. Who wants to go after a goal if failure means you're unlovable? Not me. What if you could love yourself whether you accomplished the goal or not, but you did it because you loved yourself? How would that change your perspective on your journey? How would that naturally fuel your desire to do all the things you want to do? Drop the drama. The opposite of love is shame. Shame means I am bad because I did something bad. Unconditional love means no matter what I do, I am lovable. Stage 1, neglect and ignore. There is no I am. Stage 2, stagnant awareness. There is an I am, but there's no progress. Stage 3, conditional change. There's a progressive I am, but shame comes along. Stage 4, unconditional love. You have the capacity to learn and grow and expand, but there is an I am that never changes. I am lovable. And you are, no matter what. Your value is fixed. It never changes. Every human being on this planet is infinitely invaluable and lovable. The only thing that changes your lovability is your ability to love yourself. That's it. A rose doesn't change in its value. Some people like a rose, some people don't like a rose. The rose's lovability is simply the person's ability to love that rose. Its value doesn't change, and neither does yours. So, here's my important question today. Where are you in these stages of self-love? My guess is that since you're listening to this podcast, you at least have an awareness of yourself, and you're striving to create change in your life. But how are you approaching change? With love? You want to know the answer? Test it out with today's TLC. I challenge you to fail on purpose today. Pick one thing that you would normally beat yourself up if you didn't do, and choose to fail. And then pay attention to your brain after you fail. Now, failure doesn't have to be big. It could be as simple as you forgot to brush your teeth, right? The way that you talk to yourself after you fail will tell you your relationship with yourself. Do you have your own back? Do you want to be your friend? Are you on your team? or are you against yourself? The answer to that affects everything else in your life, every relationship you have, every goal you're striving to achieve. It's time for you to learn to love you unconditionally. It's the only way to embrace who you really are, and the only way to achieve lasting change. More on that in the next podcast. Thanks for listening today. If you want to learn more about how to think light, feel light, and live light, then hop on my website, thelightcoach.com, to schedule a free intro session and explore what's possible for you. That's the LIGHT coach.com. And I promise you, it'll be an adventure that you will never forget.